Angels descended with force. Padre Pio watched heaven mobilize with power that terrified him. Not gently, not slowly, with warrior intensity. A man was standing in a crowd, speaking truth. Everyone else was lying, and he was refusing to join them. And all of heaven responded. The man stood alone. The crowd was hostile. They were telling a lie that would destroy an innocent person. Everyone knew it was a lie, but everyone was agreeing with it. Safety in numbers, protection in consensus. Except this one man. He stood up. His voice shook. That is not true. I was there. That is not what happened. The crowd turned on him. Threats came. Pressure mounted. He could have sat down. He could have stayed silent. No one would have blamed him. But he kept standing. That is when Padre Pio saw what heaven does when someone stands for truth. The vision had struck him during prayer. He was interceding for those who suffer for truth. Suddenly the veil tore. He saw beyond the physical. He witnessed what was happening in the spiritual realm. Angels descended like warriors. Not dozens. Legions. They surrounded the man. They positioned themselves in formation. Battle formation. They were protecting him from spiritual forces most people never see. One angel stood directly in front of the man. A shield. Blocking attacks coming from the hostile crowd. Not physical attacks. Spiritual ones. Fear. Intimidation. The crushing weight of social pressure. The angel absorbed them all. Another angel stood behind the man, strengthening his spine. Every time he felt his courage failing, the angel gave more. He thought the strength was his own. It was not. A third angel moved through the crowd, working on hearts, creating doubt where there had been certainty, planting conviction where there had been comfort. Some in the crowd would not sleep tonight. Seeds of truth were being planted. Heaven had responded to this man's courage as though standing for truth was the most important thing a human could do. And perhaps it was. Padre Pio felt his own fear. He had seen people speak truth before. He had witnessed courage. But this response was different, more violent, more total, more urgent. Why? What made this man stand different from all the others? Hours later, something shocked Padre Pio deeply. He saw another scene, another lie being told, another crowd agreeing. But this time, a different person stood up. He also spoke truth. He also contradicted the lie, but he did it safely. He waited until others spoke first. He made sure he had protection. He calculated the risk. The spiritual realm barely moved. A few angels came. They did minimal work. The truth was spoken. But heaven did not mobilize. Heaven was not responding with power, not because the truth was unimportant, but because the courage was calculated. Padre Pio understood immediately. Both people had spoken truth. Both had contradicted lies. Both had stood up. But heaven saw what filled each person's heart. The first man had stood alone, with everything to lose. No guarantee of safety, no protection secured, just truth and courage. He stood because someone innocent would be destroyed, because silence would be complicity. The second man had stood safely, with others, with protection arranged, with risk minimized. He spoke truth, but he protected himself first. Heaven responds to courage taken at cost, not to truth spoken from safety. Weeks later, something shocked Padre Pio even more. The angels had not left the first man. They were still there, still surrounding him, still protecting him. And what they did next revealed the secret most people never learn about standing for truth. The man faced consequences. He lost his position. His reputation was attacked. People who had been friends turned away. The lie he had exposed was powerful, and it struck back. But the angels moved with constant attention. Every attack that should have destroyed him failed. Every accusation that should have ruined him fell apart. Provision came from impossible sources. The man never knew angels were protecting him. He thought he was just surviving, just enduring, just holding on. But Padre Pio saw the truth. Heaven was still responding. The angels had never stopped. The single act of standing for truth had opened protection that continued to flow. Nothing moved for a long moment. Then the vision deepened. Padre Pio began to see the pattern heaven was revealing. The stands for truth that summoned heaven's full response were not the most eloquent, not the most popular, not the most applauded. They were the most costly. The souls that brought heaven to immediate action were those whose truth-telling carried a specific quality. It was not about being right. It was about standing alone. About speaking when speaking might destroy you. These souls did not stand for truth to appear brave. They stood because someone innocent would suffer. Because lies destroy. Because silence is betrayal. And heaven cannot resist that kind of courage. At first, Padre Pio saw only the outward act. Both people had spoken truth. Both had contradicted lies. but heaven saw what motivated each person. The first man's courage had been pure, no calculation, no safety net, no protection secured. He stood because truth mattered more than safety, because innocent people mattered more than his comfort. The second man's courage had been managed. He spoke truth only when safe, only when others went first, only when risk was minimal, and heaven responds to sacrifice, not to safety. The vision paused. Padre Pio felt heaven preparing to reveal something deeper. Not just what happened when people stood for truth, but why this courage unleashed such power. The silence stretched. His breathing slowed. Then the vision resumed differently. Padre Pio saw that standing for truth mirrors how Christ stood. Alone, without protection, knowing the cost, speaking truth anyway. When someone speaks truth from safety, the cost is managed. The risk is calculated. The courage is partial. Heaven recognizes it. But heaven does not mobilize. But when someone speaks truth at total risk, heaven sees Christ. And when heaven sees Christ reflected in a human act, all of heaven responds. That kind of courage summons warrior angels. Because that courage is holy, sacred, the very thing angels were created to protect. A soul that stands for truth has released all concern for safety, for reputation, for comfort. They stand because someone must, because silence is death, and that sacrifice moves all of heaven. Padre Pio understood now what made the difference. Standing for truth is not about being articulate, not about winning arguments, not about being proven right. It is about courage. About standing when standing might destroy you, about speaking when everyone else is silent, about choosing truth over safety. The soul stands when standing costs everything, when the crowd is hostile, when friends will abandon, when consequences are certain. That willingness proves the courage is real. He saw another example. A woman in a workplace. Her superior was lying, blaming an innocent employee for his own mistakes. Everyone knew the truth, but everyone stayed silent. Jobs were at stake. The woman stood up in the meeting. That is not what happened. I was there. This is the truth. Her voice was clear despite her fear. The room went silent. Her superior's face darkened. She had just destroyed her own career. Padre Pio watched angels fill that room. The moment she chose truth over security, heaven responded. Angels surrounded her. They positioned themselves between her and the fury of her superior. She lost her job the next day, but the angels remained. New work came within a week. Better work. Work she never would have found if she had stayed. Provision flowed. The innocent employee was vindicated. The truth came out fully. The superior was removed. Justice came because one woman chose courage. But Padre Pio saw more. The angels remained with the woman for years. Every time she faced injustice, they acted. Every time truth was at stake, they protected her. The single choice to stand for truth had marked her. Heaven protected her because she had done what angels do. She had fought for truth at any cost. The vision began to fade. Padre Pio remained still. He would never tell people to stand for truth to gain blessing, but he would say quietly to those who came to him, when you see a lie destroying someone innocent, and you know the truth, speak it. Even if standing costs you everything. Even if the crowd turns against you. Even if you stand alone, not to appear brave, but because someone innocent needs defending, because lies destroy souls, because silence is betrayal. Stand even when standing terrifies you, even when everyone else sits, even when consequences are certain, not to gain blessing, but because truth is sacred, and standing for truth is standing with God. And watch what happens. Watch how heaven responds when you choose truth over safety. He sat in silence long after the vision ended. The room felt different now, charged with possibility. The truth remained with him, not as technique, but as reality. Angels respond to standing for truth immediately, not because heaven rewards courage, but because standing for truth at cost mirrors Christ. And when humans act like Christ, heaven mobilizes completely. The kind of protection that never fails. The kind heaven has waited to give.